The first time I noticed Clara was on the very first day of JSS2. Our classroom was buzzing with the usual noise, chairs scraping, people greeting friends they hadn't seen since vacation, and a few loud boys tossing paper balls across the room. I had barely taken my seat when she walked in. She wasn't flashy, but there was something about her, the way her books were neatly wrapped in brown paper, her hair plaited in simple lines, and her school badge perfectly straight. She went straight to the second row, unpacked her stationery, and sat quietly. When the bell rang for the first lesson, mathematics, Mr. Ojo walked in with a big grin and a stack of new exercise books. "Good morning, class," he began, in his deep voice. We chorused back. He introduced himself, then wrote a tricky equation on the board. 4x, 7 is equal to 17. "All right, who can solve this?" he asked, scanning the room. Hands went up slowly. I didn't bother raising mine. I wasn't exactly a math genius. Then Clara's hand shot up. Mr. Ojo nodded at her. She stood, walked to the board with quiet confidence, and in less than 30 seconds, the answer was written out neatly: x equals 6. She didn't just write it, she explained each step, her voice steady but warm, as if she was teaching, not showing off. When she finished, the whole class stared at her. Mr. Ojo smiled and said, "I think we've just met our mathematician of the year." The boys at the back muttered things like, "Nah, bookworm be that," but she just walked back to her seat and opened her notebook, unfazed. That was the moment I realized Clara wasn't just another student. She was different. And as I would later find out, her brilliance went far beyond numbers. The next day, we had English literature with Mrs. Bello. She was the kind of teacher who always wore bright Ankara wrappers and had a voice that carried even without a microphone. That day, she announced we would be reading The Lion and the Jewel by Wole Soyinka. "Who can read the first scene for us?" she asked. Nobody volunteered. Then she pointed at Clara. Clara stood, opened the book, and began to read. But it wasn't just reading, she became the characters. Her voice changed with each roll, her eyes lit up at dramatic lines, and when she got to Cece's playful taunts, she even tilted her head and smiled. By the time she finished, the entire class was clapping. Mrs. Bello said, tapping her pen on the table. "I think we've just found the lead actress for our school play." From that day, people stopped seeing Clara as just the maths genius. She was now the girl who could bring stories to life. One Thursday afternoon, I stayed back to work on my class notes. I noticed Clara at the back of the room with David, the quiet boy who always avoided eye contact. His head was bent over his science textbook, and he looked frustrated. "You're mixing up the chemical symbols," Clara said gently. "See, sodium is Na, not so." David scratched his head. "I always forget." She smiled. "Then we'll make a game out of it." She started singing silly songs using chemical symbols, and soon David was laughing and memorizing them without even realizing it. 2 weeks later, David scored one of the top marks in science. When I congratulated him, he said, "It's not me. It's Clara. She didn't let me give up." By midterm, Clara's name was on every teacher's lips. Some classmates admired her, but not everyone was happy. Tund, one of the top students before she arrived, didn't like the attention she was getting. One day in class, the teacher gave a tough history question about colonial rule. Tund quickly raised his hand, answered, and looked at Clara as if daring her to beat him. The teacher nodded but then asked, "Clara, do you have anything to add?" She stood and calmly explained a deeper point about how colonial policies shaped modern Nigeria's economy. Even the teacher's eyebrows went up. When she sat down, Tund muttered under his breath, "Show off." Clara heard him but just smiled faintly, as if she knew competing wasn't the point. Everyone assumed Clara was only good with books, so during sports day, nobody expected to see her name on the participant list. But there she was, signed up for the long-distance race. "She'll faint after 2 laps, one boy whispered. The whistle blew, and off they went. Clara didn't rush. She kept a steady pace while others sprinted and tired out. By the final lap, most were panting heavily. Clara overtook one runner after another and crossed the finish line in second place. Her friends cheered. She didn't win first, but she proved something. Brilliance wasn't about being perfect at one thing. It was about trying, learning, and surprising people. In social studies, we were given a group project about the effects of climate change in Nigeria. Everyone groaned. Group work meant arguments. But when Clara was made our group leader, things were different. She assigned roles based on strengths. Amaka, you're great at drawing, so do the charts. Musa, you like talking, so you'll present. I'll handle the research. We finished earlier than any other group, and during the presentation, Musa spoke so confidently that even he was shocked. Clara had coached him through every line. Our group got the highest score, and for the first time, I realized she was not just brilliant, she was a leader. When midterm exams came, tension filled the air. Clara, as usual, was calm. I sat next to her during English and watched how she wrote without stopping once, her handwriting neat and steady. When results came out, she topped the class in almost every subject. But instead of boasting, she went around congratulating others. You improved in maths, she told me, smiling genuinely. Even Tund, her rival, had to admit grudgingly, you're good. Clara just replied, we're all learning. Mrs. Bellow's school play was in full swing, and Clara had been cast as Seedy. I wasn't in the play, but I loved watching rehearsals. Clara memorized her lines quickly and helped other actors remember theirs. During one practice, the boy playing Barocca forgot a whole section. The director was about to scold him, but Clara quickly whispered the lines so naturally that it seemed like part of the scene. Everyone clapped, and the director shook his head. You'll go far, Clara. As her popularity grew, so did gossip. One morning, I overheard two girls saying, she only gets good grades because she's the teacher's favorite. I told Clara what I heard. She sighed. It's okay. People talk. I just have to keep being myself. Later that week, she proved her worth again when Mr. Ojo gave the class a surprise quiz. She scored full marks, and so did two other students she had been tutoring. That silenced many critics. It happened during break time. I was carrying a tray of food in the canteen when a group of seniors blocked my way. One of them laughed and said, You can't sit here. This table is for smart people. Before I could respond, Clara appeared. She set her own tray down on the table and said calmly, Then I guess I belong here, and so does my friend. The seniors looked at her, then shrugged and walked away. I sat down, still shocked. Clara smiled at me. Sometimes brilliance isn't about books. It's about knowing when to speak up. That day, I realized that Clara's intelligence wasn't just something she had. It was something she used to make the people around her better. One Monday morning, the principal came to our class with exciting news. The school would be participating in an inter-school science fair. We need a team of 4, he said. Each school will present an innovative project. As expected, Clara's name was among the first chosen. The others were Tund, Amaka, and David. When the principal left, the class buzzed with excitement and a little jealousy. Tund muttered, Let's see if she's as smart as everyone says when the real challenge comes. Clara just smiled and said, We'll work as a team. The science fair team met after school in the lab. Clara suggested building a low-cost water filtration system for rural communities. It's useful, practical, and we can make a working model, she explained. Tund wanted something flashier, like a robot. Arguments began, but Clara listened patiently to everyone. In the end, she proposed combining ideas. They could build a smart filtration system with sensors to indicate when the water was clean. Even Tund agreed it was a good compromise. Preparation for the fair meant staying after school almost every day. We'd pass by the lab and see Clara hunched over a table, testing water samples, or sketching diagrams in her neat handwriting. She encouraged David to handle the coding for the sensors, guided Amaka with the display charts, and even let Tund take charge of the mechanical parts. One evening I asked, Aren't you tired? She smiled. Of course I'm tired. But good things take effort. A week before the fair, students from the rival school, Bright Minds Academy, visited for a friendly quiz. Their top student, Vanessa, was quick-tongued and confident. During a break, she said to Clara, I hear you're the smartest here. Let's see if that's true. Clara didn't reply with arrogance. She simply said, We'll let the results speak. And during the quiz, she answered every question given to her correctly, even the tricky ones. 2 days before the science fair, disaster struck. The sensor in the filtration system stopped working. Tund threw his hands up. It's over. We can't fix this in time. But Clara didn't panic. "We'll find a way," she said firmly. She stayed late with David, testing wires and running through code until they finally got it working again. It was past 8 p.m. when she left school that night, but her smile said it was worth it. The morning of the science fair, our team was dressed in matching school uniforms and blazers. The hall was filled with colorful displays from different schools. Some projects looked intimidating: solar-powered drones, mini wind turbines, and high-tech robots. When it was our turn, Clara stepped forward and spoke clearly about how the filtration system could save lives in rural communities. She didn't just talk about science, she talked about people and how innovation should help them. The judges were visibly impressed. After hours of presentations, the results were announced. Our school came first. The cheers from our classmates nearly shook the building. Clara held the trophy, but she didn't keep it. She passed it around so everyone could take pictures. Even Tund, who had once been her biggest critic, said, "You're not just smart, Clara. You're something else." A week later, the local newspaper published an article about the science fair, featuring a picture of Clara and the team. Teachers proudly pinned it to the notice board. Clara blushed whenever people pointed it out, but she never bragged. Instead, she started a small science club in class, encouraging anyone interested to join, whether they were top students or not. "Brilliance grows when it's shared," she said. Just when everyone thought Clara's talents were limited to academics, she entered the school's annual art competition. Her painting showed a tree with half its branches blooming and the other half bare, a symbol of hope and struggle. She didn't win first place, but the judges praised her creativity. When I asked why she entered, she said, "Because creativity is another kind of intelligence." Mid-second term, the teachers went on a short strike. Some students treated it as a holiday, but Clara saw it as an opportunity. She started small study groups under the mango tree in the schoolyard. She taught maths, science, and even helped others improve their essays. By the time school resumed, those who had attended her sessions performed better in class. She didn't ask for any reward, she just seemed happy to help. The school sports captain fell ill just before the inter-house games. To everyone's shock, Clara volunteered to lead the Yellow House team. She organized practices, encouraged even the weakest athletes, and made sure everyone felt included. Yellow House didn't win overall, but they came second, their highest position in years, and the sportsmaster praised her leadership. The debate club needed one last member for an upcoming competition, and Mrs. Bello chose Clara. The topic was, "Technology has done more harm than good." Clara was on the opposing side, and her arguments were so well-structured and persuasive that the judges awarded her the Best Speaker prize. "When I told her she was amazing," she laughed. "I was so nervous, I thought my voice would crack." One afternoon after class, I found Clara sitting quietly by the window. She looked lost in thought. When I asked what was wrong, she admitted, "I work hard because I know what it's like to be behind. In my old school, I struggled at first. People called me slow. I promised myself I'd never give up again. It made me see her brilliance differently. It wasn't magic. It was persistence." When Mr. Ojo fell ill and missed a week of school, the maths lessons piled up. Clara asked the vice principal if she could help cover some revision sessions for the class. He agreed, and for that week, our classroom became her mini lecture hall. She made complex algebra seem simple, and even the students who usually hated maths were paying attention. At the end of term, the principal asked Clara to give a short speech at assembly. She stood in front of the school and spoke about hard work, kindness, and how intelligence should be used to help others. "I'm not the smartest person in the world," she said, "but I try every day to learn, and I try to make sure what I learn helps someone else." The hall was silent for a moment, and then it erupted in applause. At the start of the new term, a transfer student named Sandra joined our class. She was smart, confident, and not shy about showing it. Within a week, she was competing with Clara in every subject. Some students began whispering, "Maybe Clara won't be number one anymore." Sandra seemed to enjoy the rivalry, often making sly remarks like, "Let's see if the brilliant girl can keep up." Clara never took the bait, but I could see she felt the pressure. Halfway through the term, Clara's grandmother, the person she lived with, passed away. She missed several days of school, and when she returned, her usual brightness seemed dimmed. During break, I found her staring at her maths notes without turning the pages. I just can't think straight, she admitted. It was the first time I had seen her vulnerable. The midterm results came, and for the first time since she joined the school, Clara wasn't first. Sandra had taken the top spot by 2 points. Some classmates were quick to gossip, but Clara didn't argue. She congratulated Sandra sincerely, though I could see the disappointment in her eyes. That evening, she told me quietly, I'm not upset about losing first place. I'm upset because I know I didn't give my best. Slowly, Clara started picking herself back up. She returned to study group sessions, caught up on missed work, and even entered the annual essay competition. Her topic was turning pain into purpose. It was raw and heartfelt, and I knew it came straight from her recent loss. When she won first prize, the smile on her face was the brightest I had seen in weeks. The principal announced a new Best All-Round Student award for the graduating class. It would be based on academics, extracurricular activities, leadership, and character. Everyone knew it would come down to Clara and Sandra. The competition was intense: debates, quizzes, sports events. Sandra was skilled, but Clara's strength was her balance. She excelled without neglecting kindness and teamwork. The last event before the award decision was an inter-school debate. Clara and Sandra were both on the team, but they had to face rival schools together. Midway through the debate, Sandra froze on stage, forgetting her point. The audience whispered, and the judges looked impatient. Clara calmly stepped forward, finished the argument seamlessly, and credited Sandra for the idea. Sandra later admitted, "You could have embarrassed me, but you didn't." Clara just said, "We're on the same side." The following week, the principal called both Clara and Sandra to his office. I don't know exactly what was said, but when Clara came out, she looked thoughtful. Later, she told me, he said being brilliant isn't just about winning. It's about what you leave behind when you're gone. For her final contribution before graduation, Clara organized a peer tutoring day where older students taught younger ones. It was chaotic at first, but by the end, the younger students were smiling, proudly showing off what they had learned. Teachers agreed to make it an annual tradition. Clara's idea would continue even after she left. Graduation day came. The hall was decorated, parents filled the seats, and students wore neatly pressed uniforms one last time. When the principal announced the best all-round student, there was no surprise. It was Clara. She walked up to the stage, her posture straight, her smile calm. In her speech, she thanked her classmates, teachers, and even Sandra. "Brilliance is not measured by how much you know," she said, "but by how much light you bring into the lives of others." After the ceremony, I found Clara outside, looking at the school building. "I'll miss this place," she said softly. "You've left your mark here," I replied. She smiled. "Then that's enough for me." As she walked away, I realized something. Clara's brilliance was never just about grades or trophies. It was in the way she inspired people, including me, to aim higher, be kinder, and believe that one person could make a difference. And even though she was leaving, her light would stay with us, always.